Welcome to the Essence of Homeschooling podcast, brought to you by the umbrella school, Start Academy. We empower and equip you to cultivate the authentic homeschool lifestyle where freedom and relationships rule.
We understand there are lots of questions about publicly funded programs. We need to remember that there is no one size fits all. Every program is different. Every family is different. And in the end, this comes down to your family and not just your family, your particular student, because even though it may be something good for one child, it may not be good for another child. We're wanting you to hear the positives and the negatives and make the wise choice based upon what you as a homeschool parent need and what each one of your individual children need.
So with that, let's get started. I always want the bad news first. So I'm going to kick off with some of the bad things, and I'd like to explore the negative sides of participating in a publicly funded program. And then after we get through the bad side, then we'll start to look at maybe some more of the positives so that you can really fully understand the negatives before you touch on the positives, so you can have a well-rounded understanding of what our perception is before you ultimately make your decision whether or not participating in a publicly funded program is right for your child. Okay, so Michelle, I know you and I have talked about this just over the course of years. We've had a lot of discussions around this and whether or not people should or should not do it. And I have personally taken a lot of heat within the homeschool community in Colorado specifically because Colorado, it's like oozing with all of these state-funded programs. The school districts have figured out a way to make a lot of money off of homeschoolers. And so they've developed a lot of different programs to give homeschoolers enrichment opportunities and then additional academic support opportunities and then even career training opportunities. So in Colorado, this is a big topic of discussion. And historically, there's a group of homeschoolers in Colorado that are just adamantly against, 100% against using these programs for any reason because they feel that the government's going to take control of your homeschool and they're going to interfere with your homeschool and you're giving up your privacy and your autonomy within the homeschool. My position has always been that it's up to the parents, and I trust parents to make the decisions whether or not the kids use this, but there's a lot that goes into it. And Michelle and I have both, I know, used these programs for our kids. Stacey, have you ever used a publicly funded program?
Yes, a few years here and there.
Okay, so we've all three used them and we've seen really the ins and outs of these different programs.
I think we need to remember that there's always something we give up when we go outside of our own home for educational purposes. At the same time, there's always something we gain. So we have to carry the balance of, are the pros outweighing the cons when we make this choice? When you do register for a state-funded activity for the enrichment programs, you have to register with the district. So you are already going in, and yes, that means that district that you register under for that program that's at that school, your information is in their system.
When you're enrolling in the district, you still have to comply with all district policies and give them any information that they ask for their enrollment process. So all they do is want to track to know, and this goes to how they use this for tracking a little bit, why some people don't like it. Every program is going to ask you at some point whether you filed an NOI, and if you filed an NOI, who you filed it with, or if you're enrolled with an umbrella school. So they usually have a form that you fill out and you just have to check the box and answer, I filed a notice of intent with such and such school district, or I'm enrolled with an umbrella school, and this is which umbrella school I'm enrolled with.
One of the things to be aware of is knowing what you want to gain from it, because there's excellent enrichment programs, but you can only be in one enrichment program in one district at a time. Every year, you can switch every year however you want to do, but you can only be in one enrichment program at a time.
One government funded.
One
Enrich-
government funded.
program.
Yes.
Yeah, you can be in as many private co-ops or
Correct.
groups as you want, but only one publicly funded program at a time. So what do you all think about the belief out there that people who let their kids participate in these publicly funded programs are eroding their homeschool rights or are giving up their privacy for their homeschool, and that the government will take a hand in saying what has to be done in a homeschool or will result in more oversight from in a homeschool perspective?
I think there is the issue of here and now and the issue of the future and what if. Because what you just said is both. So if someone is homeschooling under NOI, what you are asked to provide to enroll in an enrichment program is not much more than you've already provided to the school district for your NOI. So therefore, on the one side, somebody could say, I've already provided an NOI. I'm not giving any more information. I'm not losing any privacy. The government already knows my child's name and age. So therefore, when I enroll in the program, I'm not giving up anything. Whereas the person on the other side could say, I'm homeschooling through an umbrella school because I don't want the government to have my child's information. So therefore, you probably wouldn't want to enroll in an enrichment program because then you would be giving your child's information.
Yeah, if that's a deal breaker for you, then
Yes, and I feel like just as there is no one size fits all in education, there's no one size fits all in homeschooling. And that is why we all homeschool, right? We broke out of the public school model of one size fits all and children being taught in the same way and tested in the same way and progressed through the grades in the same way. We broke out of that. So I don't want to implement that in homeschooling.
Correct.
And then
And
for
so-
the future part, to the second part of your question, what will that lead to? We don't know. And I think that is a very valid concern. And I know organizations such as HSLDA have a concern that continuing to enroll in government programs, continuing to accept government funding for education could lead to things like the laws that are being passed across the country right now for school choice, school vouchers. What we're seeing in states that have had that for years, like Arizona, is additional government oversight attached to that money. That's not the case in Colorado right now. Is it a possibility? Yes. Is it something we should be worried about? Yes. But I think that's a different issue than what is the here and now.
do you think that at this point, because it's so huge in Colorado, that there's any going back at this point? Honestly, when I look at how many programs there are in Colorado, it's a Pandora's box. There's no going back at this point. The bell's been rung. They already have all these programs, and if the oversight is going to come from it, I don't feel like people abstaining from it is going to stop that oversight from happening unless everybody pulled out and withdrew and then they actually felt the pain at the school district level of not receiving the funding, because they make so much money off of homeschoolers. There have been some schools that have gone from the red in their budgets and being on the verge of closing to going into the black and actually having enough money to survive solely because of the money that they were bringing in because of their homeschooling programs. So I personally don't believe that enough people would be willing to say, forget it, I'm withdrawing my kid from this program so you can't have the funding that's attached to my kid. I feel like people are already in deep enough that they would go along with whatever requirements were there at this point. Does that make sense what I'm saying? I don't feel like people abstaining from programs in Colorado at this point is going to stop something that could potentially be coming in the way of oversight at this point. Do you think I'm wrong on that? Like, how do you feel about what I said?
I agree with you. I don't think it is a Pandora's box. I don't think you can go backwards from this. And there's really some excellent things that you get from it. You just have to know what is best for your family and be aware of what you're getting into as your family. The other caution I want people to know about too is you get used to a school doing things for you, to be aware that they will not always teach according to your values. So you have to understand who the teachers are, what they're teaching. There's one program I stayed in only because of the teacher my child would continue to have. But if she had stopped teaching, my child would have come out because I trusted the teacher-child relationship there. And I could then have a personal conversation with the teacher over anything that went on in class. So those are great relationships to allow your child to have. The other danger is you get used to them doing everything that you think, oh, I can't teach high school. And you forget your own ability and your own desire in the first place that brought them home and the reason you were homeschooling to begin with. And again, in Colorado with concurrent enrollment that you can take college and homeschool and take that enrichment, because there's some enrichment programs that have the dual enrollment attached with it. Again, you've got to weigh the pros and cons. There, like Stacy said, there's no one size fits all. And that even applies to your own family. All of my kids have done different things.
So really, when you're talking about that stuff, you're talking about like high school and when it's more robust, like academic support. You're not talking about like the fun enrichment things for elementary, middle school, right?
Not the fun enrichment, like the drama and the art and the music and those things. But as you do let them, even in middle school, get some of those other classes for math or science, you start to realize it divides the homeschool community in a way. I think that's the other danger is now we don't have anyone is homeschooling with you. That's what I've struggled with in Colorado is that who else will teach my kids? I'll teach the history and the language arts. Can someone teach the science? I had a friend who was doing that. We were doing that together for a while. Then when her kids got older and I still had younger kids, no one else was doing that. It was hard to find a cohesive homeschool community.
I think that's huge in Colorado. I don't feel like there's really a genuine, there is somewhere, I'm sure, but by and large, the vast majority of people in Colorado who are quote unquote homeschooling are not actually homeschooling. It's like an alternative education model, I feel like.
Correct.
Because so many people are in these different programs. And to what you were saying, I feel like the homeschool community in Colorado is not like the homeschool community in other states where it's like co-op based, right? Where it's what you're talking about. Homeschool moms and families are coming together to figure this thing out together and to rely on one another to, mom, so-and-so, you're good at science. Okay, you're going to teach these science classes. And mom, Michelle, you're great at teaching literature and history. So you're going to do those. And me, like I'm actually strong in organizational things. So I'm going to organize the whole thing and get everybody lined up and scheduled and come together. And there are some co-ops like that in Colorado, but by and large, not many. What I also found is that relationships and friendships, like families didn't get together in that co-op setting because they were all so busy, spread out and spread thin with all of their activities, going all the time between sports and these activities and those activities and this enrichment program and that enrichment program. And then it broke off even more cliquish, right? We're a part of this homeschool group and this homeschool program. We don't mix with those people because they're different. Those are some of the, I think, the negative things about it. Are there any other negative aspects that you can see?
It's hard to get together, like you were saying, but you don't even see the other parents because you drop your kid off, go through the pickup line and pick your child up. So you don't have a way to know your kids' friends or the families they come from unless you make a concerted effort and pass your number through your child and they pass it along to their parents. That's been hard, is to make the connections were very hard. But as with homeschooling, it takes being purposeful. It can be done. And there are some really good friendships that can come out of it. But it takes intentionality, which is what homeschooling is to begin with, is a lot of intentionality.
I feel like there's been a lot of, I really hate using the word fear-mongering. I really hate using that word. But I feel like there has been fear-mongering from the group who is opposed to this when they say what the government's going to do and they're going to take away and they're going to do terrible things and they're going to brainwash your kids and undo the things that you've been trying to teach them and they're going to instill bad ideas into your children's and they're going to know about your homeschool and they're going to test your kids when you're not there. Okay, my kids have been in a couple different programs and not once ever did any of the teachers or administration ever show any kind of lack of respect for the
Correct.
homeschool parents. They were very respectful, saying, you are the primary educators and we are only here to help you. I think that maybe there are some ill-intentioned people out there, just because, let's face it, we live in a broken world where there are bad people everywhere. I would caution people to say, what school district am I in and what is their reputations for homeschoolers? Because there are a couple of school districts, primarily around the greater Denver area, that have horrible reputations for how they view and treat homeschoolers. And in some of those districts, I would say, no, don't even do it. I would personally not put my kids in one of those school districts into one of those situations. For me, it would be a hard no, no chance ever. I wouldn't even consider it. So I think it's a matter of talking to the people at the school district program, and the school districts often have many different program options. And they're run really as complete separate programs and entities. So they're going to have their own principal and they're going to have their own person in charge and they're going to have their own admin staff. Talk to those people, have a conversation with them, ask them what their opinion is on homeschooling and how they respect homeschoolers or not. I think that's really important to know who you're allowing space and access to your child. I don't think anybody should just go blindly enrolling into an enrichment program. You wouldn't let them go over to somebody's house and play all day long without knowing the parents and what was going on, right?
Welcome to Start Academy. We are an umbrella school that fulfills legal reporting requirements for homeschoolers in Colorado. But all of our services like transcripts, diplomas, IDs, and coaching are available no matter where you live. Don't forget to check out our store for homeschool essentials like attendance logs, planners, report cards, and DIY high school transcripts. Whether you need help with paperwork, planning, support, or guidance on your homeschool journey, Start Academy is here to support you. Visit theumbrellaschool.com to learn more.
Have you guys experienced anything different from me where it has seemed like they were operating the program to get intel on homeschoolers and break their way into your homeschool? Have you ever felt your autonomy threatened in one of these programs?
I have not in the programs that we have been in. However, I think in the context of this conversation, there is a difference between the school district, the principal, the teachers that your child might be interacting with, and the greater educational system of the state. I think there is more to fear long-term from the greater system, wanting access, wanting information, wanting to implement maybe a state curriculum or state testing or some other intrusion into homeschooling. We just don't know what the future holds. But to answer your question, I think the individual people that we've interacted with have all been interested in helping homeschoolers be better homeschoolers.
Do you ever felt like they looked down on you or thought less of you because you were a homeschooler?
I will say a couple times at one specific program we were in, sometimes the conferences and conversations were very, not patronizing, but a little bit like, we are the educated professionals. Yes, the child is yours and you are the homeschool parent. However, in our professional opinion, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I do feel like there is that level of they are professional teachers, educators, principals, et cetera. And sometimes you are seen as just the mom.
How many was that in just one? How many of you participated in and how many did you experience that?
We participated in 2 different public school district programs. Those were the only 2 publicly funded programs. Everything else has been co-ops or moms. I would say in one for sure. The other one had a better reputation, but we had a very poor experience with that particular teacher.
We've been in, I was counting that up as you asked, Stacy. We've tried 5 different programs and faced it in one, but that was from administration. And when that administration left, a lot of that went away. So that was helpful. So it's just paying attention to who's interfacing with your children, who's interacting with them, who their teachers are. Because even in a lot of these programs, there's fabulous teachers. But as with everybody, not every kid connects with every teacher. Sometimes you pull them out because it's not the right circumstance for your particular child. Again, that's why we homeschool, because we're mindful of our own children.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Nothing's permanent. You can try it and then say, oh, sorry, this isn't for us, got to go. And you can pull them back out.
The hard part with that is you forego going into another program that same year. But for any of the private co-ops or learning groups, I don't know if they have a cutoff for their when you join. It's
up
just
to the
harder.
individual.
Yeah,
Each individual
it's
is
up
gonna
to
have
that
their
one.
own rules, yeah.
And sometimes it's harder because you find you're behind. It just depends on your family. It really comes down, in my opinion, to your family. And are you paying attention to who is interacting with your child, who the administration are, and what they want out of it? That one administration, I was about ready to pull that child out. And then this one decided to retire. And I was like, okay, I like the teachers. We're good. Administration's gone. We're fine. So again, you have to weigh the pros and cons. Are you a family who really needs help with college? This may be the place. Are you a family who just needs 1 or 2 classes a semester? Then you can go part-time.
I think you have to weigh the costs. Nothing is
Absolutely.
ever free ever. So if you choose to enroll in a program, you're going to pay a price. You're going to pay a price because you're going to have to give them in your information. You're going to have to follow their rules. You're going to have to abide by their policies, right? So you need to know what you're getting into, educate yourself on what you're getting into. And then it's either acceptable to you or it's not. Like I've known families who have said, no, nothing is ever free. I will never, ever touch any state funding programs for my kids. And they've gone all the way through from start to finish and they've never used it. And that's fine for them. And they feel good about that. I think the biggest deal is how is it going to help your family and benefit your kid realistically? And be honest about it. And look, the reason why I started with my kids when they did their very first program, their very first enrichment program, I want to say they were in like a second, fourth, and fifth grade. That's what it was. Second, fourth, and fifth. I had listened to all of the people who were like, don't ever do this. They're out to get your kids. They're going to take over your homeschool. They're going to be in your business and all these things. And it was like such an emotionally stressful decision for me to make. I remember I was unsure. I was scared. I was scared of making the wrong decision. I was scared of making all these mistakes. I was scared of giving up our autonomy. And it was a very major decision. I remember crying about it and I was praying about it and I was all freaked out about this decision. I didn't need to be. I didn't need to be freaked out about it. I didn't need to be scared. And when I ultimately decided to do it, it was because I was seriously suffering from horrible depression. It was hard for me to even get up in the morning. I was really struggling. My kids wanted more friends. And because of all the nuances within the homeschooling community in Colorado, like some of the homeschooling friends that we had met through co-ops, they weren't like the right friends. It wasn't the connections that they were hoping for. So ultimately I was like, you know what? It's either this right now or putting them in school because I'm not doing a good job. If I could just have one day a week where I can get a break, maybe it will help me be able to keep going. Maybe it will help me catch the breath that I need to do it. And you know what? If that's how parents are feeling and they need it for whatever reason, my goodness, I would much rather somebody put their kid in a 1 day a week program and continue to homeschool and be able to go for the long haul than to throw it all away, scrap it, and throw their kids in school and say homeschool is a failure. So I think parents need to have grace for themselves and grace for their kids and take time to learn about all of it so you can make an educated decision on it, not one based in fear, not one based in fear for what's going to happen in the here and be based on fear for what happened 5 years down the road or a year down the road if the government tries to have more oversight. Because at this point in Colorado, maybe in another state, it's not that, but I feel like in Colorado at this point, it's out of the box. One family not participating is not going to stop a change in government oversight and regulation for the homeschool community in Colorado.
It'll just be a matter of continuing to be aware of what is happening.
Right.
Like Stacy said, and you said, the here and now today, this year, we're fine to participate in these programs. We don't know what's coming next year. Every year, I think, with homeschooling is a year to reevaluate what is best for my kid, what is best for our family, because we all have different seasons. We all have different times where we need extra help. We all need different things in different ways. And so it's just being wise about what is best for your family in each moment, not comparing yourself to anyone else. Your family is different and it was created different for a reason. So how do we handle just our family without comparing ourselves to everybody else? How do we help our kids what they need? And a year in an enrichment program, there's major benefits to that. But be aware which program, be aware what the cost benefit analysis.
Definitely. We've hit on a lot of the negative things and the fearful things. What are some of the good things, experiences, and benefits that your family discovered through participating in a publicly funded enrichment program?
To be honest, looking back, and we only participated in elementary school. So I know Michelle has a very different experience and has a wonderful program that your daughter participated in. In elementary school, I don't think I could say a single thing. I think it's nothing that I couldn't have done at a co-op on my own, at a mom group. I think I fell into everyone's doing it. There's all these programs. Which one are you going to do?
FOMO, right?
FOMO. And no, not even FOMO, but just, oh, they offer these? That's so great. And it fell into which one, not should I, but which one? What list are you going to get on? Everyone starts talking in January, right? Okay, are you going to get on your list? Or I'm number 67 on the third grade waiting list for the fall. And your mind just gets full of programs and options. And so we did. And looking back, it didn't give us anything in the elementary grades. Now,
You
not
did.
sometimes across the board.
You did academic programs though, didn't you? Yours were more academic support rather than just like fun enrichment stuff.
No, they were school district funded, but fun. There was one was a little bit more academic, but it was first grade and third grade. And then one was just fun. It was science and social studies oriented. It was nothing that I couldn't have replicated elsewhere. Now, I know that's very different from some of the high school programs and the other programs that are more maybe STEM or, of course, the planes that I'm sure Michelle will talk about. Those are different. But in our case, I can't really think of a thing.
Well, and I have to say, I didn't put any of my kids in there was only one child I put in third grade. Everybody else, they were fourth grade or above before they started any of these publicly funded programs. So homeschooling was very much homeschooling or a co-op that would work. But part of that is we weren't in Colorado until I had 3 who were younger than fourth grade when we moved to Colorado and 2 who were older. And for the ones who offered concurrent enrollment, I would say we definitely benefited because we saved a lot of money. Because a child went in going, I'm going criminology, I'm doing this, did some stuff for a year and went, nah, that's not what I want to study. And I went, oh, good. I'm so glad you learned something. And it didn't cost us a couple $1,000s of college credit for you to get that. My kids have all tried, like I said, we've tried a variety of them. And the benefits are some good friendships have come out of certain programs, some no friendships at all, which is a bummer. For some, there are so many arts programs in Colorado Springs, but they cost a lot of money. So that I still have kids who have been able to try drama, dancing, music, and art. This has been fabulous to use the enrichment program because they've really put on a great stage performance and been able to focus on that. So it's fed some of that in these kids. And then one of my kids, the connections for work were amazing because I had one who realized she was interested in flying through an enrichment program, but then they helped connect her to a flight program, a flight club, and she was able to intern there and work there and then she still has more to go because it's a long time to apprentice to get your mechanics license. Those connections that she made were definitely a benefit.
Those are a lot of positives. My kids had fun with other kids. They were younger when they did theirs. It was like elementary school and middle school when they were able to participate. And it was nice because they could go have fun and learn things. And one did an outdoor program, a couple did STEM, a couple did arts. They cycled around, and then one did like computer science, and then another one did aerospace stuff, airplanes and drones and things like that. It was overall positive. I think one thing that's really great that my kids have experienced, whether it's been through enrichment programs and being around a whole bunch of other kids that may or may not share just because we're homeschooler, it doesn't mean we're the same, right? We all have our own different sets of
Correct.
beliefs. Being around other kids with different beliefs, and whether that was in enrichment schools or now that they're in high school, they are part of a JROTC program, Army JROTC at the local high school. And they're exposed to a lot of people with a lot of different belief systems and a lot of different values and ethics and morals. And I'm really glad that they had this experience
While they're home.
while they're home. One of my friends, her kids is in a program very similar. And I love the way she said it. We were talking about it recently about some of the great things and then some of the frustrating things that we've both noticed in the programs that we're in. And she said, my little seedlings need to do this while they're in my greenhouse still, because then we can talk through all the things. And it's true. Like I was telling another friend when they were thinking about doing a similar program, I was like, you need to like clear your schedule because it brings up lots of opportunities for conversations and sorting through things and sometimes very difficult things that you're going to talk through, and you're going to need to have more time in your schedule to sort through the lessons that they're learning and the things that they're seeing and experiencing. And that's invaluable. Like for people who are going to keep their kids only around like-minded other homeschoolers and homeschool families for the duration of their homeschool career, it's going to be a pretty big shock to those kids after they finish high school and graduate and go on to their post-secondary plans in the real world if they haven't been exposed to the realities of the day-to-day ins and outs of interacting or being on a team with or being in a classroom with or working with people with very different belief systems. And if you're a Christian in college, it's even harder if there are professors who are antagonistic to Christianity and to your faith. You do your kids a favor when you walk through that with them when they're still at home rather than sheltering them all the way through. A sheltered homeschooler in the long run is not set up for success.
No, it doesn't help them. One of my children in an enrichment program, government funded, faced bullying. And thankfully, this child came home, told me about it. The teacher who was there called and apologized and just said, I'm so sorry this was on my watch. And we worked through it with her. But I also took a walk with this child and we talked about not everybody comes from the same home. And so there's things going on that this other child is dealing with. And we used it as a lesson in compassion but also learning how to stand up for yourself. If that child had wanted to drop and been too scared to continue, absolutely, I would have pulled this child out. But because this child was more than willing to be gracious and forgiving of one mistake, and others were more aware of what was going on, it turned into a very positive situation. And that's what we also, part of homeschooling is walking our kids through these hard times. Because just because they are homeschooled does not mean they won't face hard times. We all know that in our own families with family drama is its own thing, right? But we have to help them in the outside world as well, because they need the tools to work in that outside world.
Absolutely.
However, enrichment programs are not the only place to get those skills as well.
Correct.
We could also do those things through competitive sports teams or the many other team situations that are available out there.
Or like part-time classes at a high school.
Part-time.
That's not really big in Colorado because of all the enrichment programs that are there. I no
Yes.
longer live in Colorado, so it's a little bit different where I am. I'm in the Kansas City area, so we don't have all those enrichment programs like there are in Colorado. For us, you know, part-time enrollment at the high school is a thing, and sports.
And I
Homeschool
would
kids now can do
yes.
sports through the high schools.
And I would love to see more more homeschoolers pull together and create their own connections, like we were talking about earlier. You teach science, you teach
Mhm.
you run the organization. We all help in different ways. There are little niches where that happens throughout Colorado. It's finding what you want.
Yeah, and there are some in Colorado still for sure. Some of them are really expensive and are hard for some families to afford. And you want to give your kids everything in the whole world, but you only have so many resources. I love how Stacy is so level-headed about this and good about it. She always reminds us that you have so many resources, be smart with what you have. You don't have to go to an enrichment program. This whole thing, we started out this actually pretty negative. Like this wasn't something where I was like, this is starting a sour note. I don't know, this is so good, but there are pros and cons, and each family has to decide for themselves. I think this is the biggest thing that I think I want to close this out with. Don't make your decision based on what anybody else says.
Right.
It's just like homeschooling. It's just like the curriculum that you use. It's just like the friend groups that you choose to associate with. It's everything in your life. You are more free than you think you are as a homeschooler. You make the best decision for you. And if other people have a problem with what you've decided, then they weren't your friends anyway. Let them go. If people are going to give you a hard time, if they're going to look down on you, let them. I don't know if have you guys heard about Mel Robbins' book, The Let Them Theory?
Yes.
I love it. I'm reading it. It's phenomenal. Let them. Just whatever. Don't get tied up in what other people's opinions are of your homeschooling decisions because you are the parent. You are still the expert on your children and you're the expert on what happens in your family. And you are more than equipped to make these decisions for yourself. So listen to your mama gut, weigh out your pros and cons, take time to educate yourself, like we said about the program, about the reputation that it has. Ask people who participate in that program how they felt about it. Learn about each individual program. On the school district itself, are they friendly towards homeschoolers? Are they not friendly from homeschoolers? If you're in the greater Denver area and you're concerned about it, just DM me. You don't just DM me. It's fine. If you need to know which school districts to watch out for, I will tell you. But just learn about which school districts are better than the others for homeschoolers and make your choice. And if you get in there and it's a disaster, then here's my withdrawal notification. They're not coming back. Thank you. Have a great day. It doesn't matter. You can change your
Right.
mind.
And it's not withdrawal the same as it is from full-time public school.
No, gosh, no.
So
It's just
it's
saying
just,
they're not
oh,
returning.
we're not coming back. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
it's here.
all.
And just send an email that
And I know
we're done.
people who
Thank
do
you.
it midway.
Absolutely.
Just realize this doesn't work and they do what's best for their family because that's
my
what
gosh.
matters.
Yeah. Even if you want to put your kids back into school and you have a moment of weakness, my oldest was in 6th grade. He went to a charter school for 6 days. I'm not submitting to this authority. I'm not living my life on the schedule. And he hated it. And he looked at me and he's like, Mom, this is not what you're going to
Right.
submit to some authority. Do you want it to be to them or to me? And he was like, you. And I was like, okay. So 6 days after we enrolled him, I went in to withdraw him. And they looked at me like I was crazy, but who cares? They don't remember me to this day. I walked out the next
Right.
day. Maybe they made fun of me. I don't care. Don't care what other people think and say. Make your decisions based on what you know is best for your children and best for your family. And it's not a lifelong commitment. If you want to do it for 1 year and you don't want to do it the next year, then don't do it the next year. If you are struggling to continue homeschooling and you just need a break, go for it. Take the break. Do what you need to do to succeed as a homeschooler so that you can homeschool for the long haul and not have to put your kids into a school full time. Because that's a whole nother level that, quite frankly, I just don't want to see anybody do. I'm really not a fan of school as an institution on a full-time basis for kids. they were made for more than sitting in a school all day long. So that's all I have to say about that.
I
Would
would
either of
say-
you have any other closing words to share?
I would say one bottom line is treat enrichment programs the same way you treat homeschooling. What works for one child does not work for all children. And what one family prioritizes, another family may not. Just be true to your family values.
Thank you for joining us on today's episode. We hope that you enjoyed the conversation and found it insightful. Be sure to check out today's show notes for all applicable links and additional resources. If you liked what you heard, please subscribe, rate, and review our podcast. Your support helps us continue to bring you great content. Until next time, happy homeschooling.